What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video. I think I can get used to this. 2 months of 0 red days? Can you imagine this? I'll show on the screen as well. So you don't think I'm faking anything. This is real. I have shown this so many times on my stream, and so as you can see from the calendar, I haven't had red days since 7th of November. So it's been almost 2 months. Or now, of course, if you see my previous video, I took quite a hefty payout. So after the payout, I took it around 12th of December, so I a little bit slowed down, as you see, and it was the holiday time as well, so maybe it's not so important green days here. But now in January as well, we had the first days green. Yeah, it's crazy to think that I haven't had a red day for 2 months. Now, I want to clarify something really quickly. This is not me saying I didn't lose during those 2 months. Of course I lost. I maybe overtraded some days. I maybe took more risk some days than others. When I was in the beginning of the day, I was in the red. For me to make the money back and also make myself into green, into profit, maybe I got lucky maybe some days, but you need to be lucky sometimes. But mostly it was really good risk management. It was me being patient to wait for the trades and really wait for my setups. Today's video is going to be really straightforward. I'm going to show you the setup that gave me 2 months of 0 red days, 2 months of only green days. I see market with different elements like EMAs, volume, price action itself, so the trend and so on. But everything is around one price action strategy, which is the 15-minute orb. And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I trade 15-minute orb. This is real money. I'm copy trading 3 accounts, so all the profits are multiplied by 3 once I take the payout. Yeah, let's see how long this streak will continue. I'm not expecting streak to continue forever, of course. Maybe it's gonna end on Monday, tomorrow. Maybe it's gonna end next week. Maybe it's gonna end of January. I don't really care anymore. I'm gonna have red day at some point. My only mission is to make it as small as possible. But let's get into the strategy. How I trade 15-minute orb, what is orb, and so on. So first, let's establish something. What is orb? Orb itself means open range breakout. So when you have open range breakout, what does it mean? It can be 1 minute open range breakout, 5 minute, 15 minute, 1 hour, I don't know, 4 hours maybe for some people. You wait for that time frame, you wait for the first 15-minute candle. In my case, when the New York trading session opens, I don't do anything for the first 15 minutes. Sometimes I can take trade, but this is 9 times out of 10, I don't touch my mouse. I just wait for the first 15 minutes. But nevertheless, let's go on the 15-minute chart. As you see, I already drawn it, but this hammer candle here, or whatever you want to call it, that's the first 15 minutes of the New York Open. So this yellow range is 15-minute orb. Then if you learn about the orb in school, what they're gonna teach you is you wait for the candle close, you wait for the retest, you enter on a retest if it's successful, and then you long, and same goes vice versa for shorts, right? So you wait for the break, you wait for the retest, and you short here on the retest. This is how you normally play the orb and what they teach you in school. In my case, I trade orb a little bit differently. And to give you a really quick story short, I only trade the breakout when the market is really trending to the one side. My previous video explains how I find my daily bias, which affects a lot of my orb decision making. When I have my daily bias as bullish, then what I will do is I will look for longs on the lower side, because I am expecting that when price is inside the orb, and we respect this is not a, so to say, high time frame bullish trend on, let's just pretend if we have a bullish trend on, let's say 4-hour chart, daily chart, and so on, then I kind of wait price to come to the low of the orb once the orb is formed, and then I will look for longs, and then I would expect this, so to say, breakout retest to be my confirmation to stay in this long. And why I do it is because it gives me much better risk reward ratio for the trade, rather than having a long here and needing a much more movement from the market to hit my TP. How I take my daily bias, you check the high time frame structure. So a good example, if you go on a daily chart, if you zoom out, all of this would be amazing to take the longs on the 15-minute orbs, whether from the orb low or from the orb high. I would say you would have 75% win rate during this time. It's for a few months where we had a really trendy market to the upside, so it made sense to always look for longs in the orb. Now for a few months, I would say, we've been a little bit bearish. We've been mostly ranging kind of in this range, right? So the market is ranging. When the market is ranging, I like to play something that I call inverse orb. So now we have 3 ways to play the orb. The first, what they teach you in the school, the basic orb. Wait for the breakout, wait for the retest, you enter. Same goes for shorts, right? Then we have market is really trendy. You will try to get better entries and you kind of hope that way of break and retest will happen. So you kind of like predict the market. I don't want to encourage you to predict the market. You should always react to what market is showing you. But the point remains kind of the same. You kind of hope that the high time frame continues and you long it from here, and then you wait for the break and retest as your confirmation. Now there is also another thing that I call inverse orb. What is inverse orb? Inverse orb is when this orb range gets really wide. So let's say in this case here it's $94, 95 points, whatever, right? Typically I wouldn't call 100-point range in Nasdaq for 15-minute orb to be really wide. I would say it's quite normal to have 100 points, but if this orb range is, let's say, 300 points, I have seen 600 points, then it doesn't make any sense for me to try to long or short the breakouts. Why? Because let's imagine this is the first 15-minute candle gives you this range. If you long or short the breakout on this, first of all, your stop loss has to be so wide if we follow, again, the normal orb rules that they teach you in the school. And then you kind of place the bet, the market having you another 300 points as a breakout. To even give you 1-to-1. Okay, yeah, maybe you can snipe better entries, but you understand my point. You need a really, I would say, low probability market movement from the same day. So how I trade this third way of the inverse orb is I short the high of the orb and I TP on the low of the orb and I long the low of the orb and again short and TP on the high of the orb. The point I'm making is if this 15-minute orb gets really wide, then in this case I will say it's wiser, and that's what I have seen in the markets, it's maybe wiser to try to play the range itself. There is a really high chance that on this day the market will stay in this 15-minute orb range at least for the first few hours. Maybe later it's gonna break out to the either side, but mostly if the orb gets really wide on the open on the first 15 minutes, then I think playing for the breakout is really difficult. When we go now on a 5-minute chart, you're gonna see that we closed the 5-minute candle above the high of the orb, and then we had a retest. So we came to retest it. So again, if you learned the orb in the school, this would be the textbook setup to go long. Now, I streamed on Friday. I'm not making this up. I shorted from around here. I would say my entry was something like this. One of the reasons was I wanted to play the inverse orb because for me, the orb range was a little bit too wide. Yeah, as I said, 100 points is not the widest orb I have seen, but at that time, 100 points was quite a lot. Like if you zoom out, then the 1 hour candles before that was maybe maximum, let's see, 79 points, 80 points, right? So if the orb range is wider than 1 hour candle, during this market hours, I would say the orb was quite wide for me to look for inverses. Now, I didn't short it or long it later, and I'll explain why as well. But why did I, so to say, short it, not long it, and how did it turn out such a good trade? We need to take something else into consideration. We need to bring another confluence. So let's take a moment, let's summarize. What do we know so far? We have 15-minute orb, which means you mark the high and the low of the first 15-minute candle after the New York Open. Second, the most normal orb that they teach you in the school means that you long the breakout, or you wait for the breakout and retest, and then you long it or short it. Well, doesn't matter which side it is, right? Then we have another setup where you kind of predict that the breakout is gonna happen. Why? Because the high time frame trend on your left shows that we are bullish or bearish. So same goes vice versa. If you try to predict it on the short side, if the market is going down on a daily or 4-hour time frame for quite some time, then maybe it's wiser to kind of short the high of the orb and then wait for the breakout and retest, and this is your confluence to stay in, right? And then we have the third way, which is inverse orb, which essentially means you long the lows and short the highs, and this usually is a good setup to take when the orb range gets really wide, right? So we have established 3 ways to trade the orb and a little bit into the reasons why we will take one of those 3 setups on the orb. Now let's add another confluence. On my second monitor here, I always have 2 indexes, ES and NQ, open simultaneously, and I will always monitor what they are doing. Why? Because, well, you might call it, I think SMT divergence is what they call it nowadays. But for me, what only matters is money rotates between those indexes. And if you only follow one index, you can be blindsided what the whole market is doing. So in this case, on my second monitor, I always have this, and I know there's a little bit more drawings here, and I'm gonna go into detail what they are, and I'm actually gonna delete some of them, but you will understand everything in a moment. So let's establish something about this chart. So this blue zone here and here is the 15-minute orb for both, for ES and NQ, right? And as you see, they played out quite in sync in the beginning, so you will be like, ES is showing the retest, NQ is showing the retest. Why would you short this? One of the reasons why I took short, because on a higher time frame, it doesn't matter if you look ES or NQ, they look on higher time frame quite similar. On high time frame, we need to look at this part, right? Because this 4-hour candle was after the market open, but the market is, I would say, ranging. We are on 4-hour, we are establishing a new downtrend. Then we had a little uptrend here, but the market itself is ranging. So for me, if the market is ranging like it has been for the almost last 2 months, like I showed you in the beginning, then it makes sense to play the inverse orb for me more than anything else, right? Not the breakout, because the market doesn't have a clear trend. This was one of the reasons. But let's go back on the divergence chart, or where I have 2 indexes open. I will give you really quick understanding what means divergence between those indexes. It means that if I go on a 1-hour chart, and I'll give you textbook example here, right? Let's take out every other drawing besides this blue. Blue is 15-minute orb, we know this. On this 1-hour chart, what we have here? We have this high, and at the same time, this high here and this high here. What do they have in common? They have in common that they happened at the same time. Market made this high, market made ES made this high, NQ made this high. What happens after market opens? I always recommend you marking those 1-hour highs or 4-hour highs or daily highs and lows on both charts, so you don't need to zoom out, you don't need to go on a high time frame, you can always keep this chart on a low time frame. But now coming back to this divergence. So we had both of these highs marked, and what happens after the New York opens? Once we establish the orb, let's go on a 5-minute chart. What happens on, we have this against this. So if you was watching this on a real time on Friday, on my stream, then as I saw this developing, let's go on the 5-minute chart, I had this high marked right here, right? So my chart on this moment looked like this. I had yellow line here and I had yellow line here. And then I was just looking on the 5-minute chart and I saw that NQ was taking out this high, this yellow line that I knew that was 1-hour high, while I looked at the ES chart and I was like, this yellow line is far away. So we have divergence. We have NQ already visiting or raiding or taking out the high that ES is not even close to. Does it mean always instant reversal? Hell no. No. But does it mean it has some kind of divergence? Does it mean that it has a, what I called in the beginning, a character that is telling you a story, which is quite important in terms of confluences and so on. So once I saw this, that hey, NQ is taking out this high aggressively, while ES is so far away, I knew that we have this divergence. ES looks something like this, and NQ looks something like this, right? We have NQ you see the divergence. One is downtrend, one is uptrend in terms of trend lines. Now, this was another reason for me to start playing inverse orb. I was like, okay, we are in the range market, which is likely that we're gonna stay inside of the orb for at least for some time. Also, the orb itself is quite wide. Remember, if the orb itself is quite wide, I would like to play the inverse orb. So now we have two things established. We have divergence and we have the kind of the orb giving us a reason to go for the inverse orb play, right? Then I would say I had another confluence. Now I have a separate video how to find reversals that goes really in depth how I use this indicator. But just to give you really shortly, I always look at the short time frame, and this was also hitting the VWAP activation bands, which is really important for me if I want to look for reversals. I always want them to see being hit. So that was also like I saw a reaction from here, so I shorted from here, playing the inverse orb. Everything is around the orb itself. When I go on a short time frame, let's go on a 5-minute time frame, right? If you look back my stream, or if you saw my stream, or if you didn't, it's okay, I'll explain what happened. In that stream, I went short around here. Before the move down happened, I had my stop loss here, and my DP was around orb low. And do you see something that gave me another confluence to stay in this short? If not, it's completely fine. You're here to learn, and I'm here to show you as much as possible. So what is the confluence? On a really short time frame, we have another divergence. We had ES pushing out this previous high, while NQ didn't take the same high. So we had high time frame confluence or high time divergence, and now we had 5-minute or 1-minute divergence. As soon as I saw it happening and I saw that NQ is not going there, I was like, my short is fine. Let's keep it on. I wasn't scared anymore that I'm gonna get stopped out because my stop was around here. And at that point, I was waiting for 5-minute candle to close inside of the orb. It doesn't matter if it's NQ or ES. I trust ES more, but it doesn't mean that ES needs to lead. Again, this is a little bit separate topic. I waited for the 5-minute candle close because when this 5-minute candle closed inside the orb, I know there's high probability that we're gonna stay inside of the orb again until we have breakout to the upside or downside. So my TP was around low of the orb. Unfortunately, my trade management itself wasn't so good. I could have taken so many more points. Now, let's say you short from here, right? You short the inverse orb, you put your stop loss here, and you put your take profit here. You play the inverse orb that I just explained. If you remember, we had 3 different ways to trade orb. We had the normal way, what they teach you in school. Then we had, I would say, the predictive way, where you kind of predict based on the high time frame trend, and you long the lows and hope that the high time frame trend continues, or break to the downside, you short the highs. And you don't play only the inverse orb, you play that the breakout will happen as well, so you get amazing trade, you get amazing entry. You are in from here, not here as the normal breakout, the first one, what they teach you in school, remember, right? So what makes me wanna stay in this short and just let it run? What does it make? Well, the first thing is we close this 5-minute candle below the orb. So this is the first rule of the first orb setup, right? What they teach you in school, remember? You need to close the candle and then you wait for the retest, and then on the retest you enter. Well, since you was playing inverse orb in the beginning, then right now, this candle close here will be like amazing. Let me stay in, let me see what happens. Let me see what happens when the retest comes, and then I can see if I can maybe scale out and so on. It's important to always be in your trades with many contracts, hopefully micros, because then you can always keep a runner, you can always take some profit, but also let the trade run and move your stop loss to break even and so on. So your confirmation will be this 5-minute candle that closed below the orb. That will be like, maybe it's the school version of orb where we are playing the breakout to the downside, but I am in from here, right? Now, what would be the perfect way for you to know to hold this trade? Again, we have a divergence, and this divergence has been really crucial for my success to have these 2 months of green. A lot of times when you play the first version of orb, remember the school version of orb, breakout, retest, enter, then a lot of cases you will see in the market in the future, you will see it a lot, that once you have, so let's say you FOMO in, you're like, I'm placing the bet that the normal orb is working, we are breaking to the downside, I'm gonna wait for retest, I'm gonna place my stop here, which is for me, again, not my trading style. But let's say you play this, right? Then in your case, you FOMO in from here. So let's say you get entry something like this, you put your stop loss there. Then do you see something that is happening? Or maybe you was not in this trade. Let me make it as clear as possible. You have this while you have this, right? So what happened was, and what you're gonna see a lot in the markets is, one of those indexes, if we have the normal orb that they teach you in school, one of those indexes will come and retest while the other one is far away. And if you only follow this chart, the Nasdaq chart, then you would have no idea we are retesting the orb low on another index, which will give you a lot of information regarding what's going on in the overall market in terms of the orb. So even if you miss this short here and you're like, I really want to short Nasdaq, but I don't know where to go in. If you have those two charts open on your screen, then you will see that, oh, ES is retesting the orb low. If ES succeeds in the retest or it doesn't go back inside the orb, then I will short the Nasdaq and I will put maybe my stop loss above the orb low. So if we go back in, we're gonna stay in, and so the trade is invalidated, right? And then you're gonna target these lows or let it run. And as you see, this is 300-point trades. These are amazing trades. And in general, on Friday, I showed on stream, if I stayed in this trade, I showed you 400 points on a stream executed. But again, it's not the point of the video. The point of this is you can have this retest on one index while it doesn't happen on another index. And this can give you good idea that this orb, the school version, is still playing out really well. Now, this can happen on the boat. We break to the upside, we come retest on ES, and then we continue. And while Nasdaq is something like this. And if you follow only Nasdaq, you can see we are retesting on ES, which is really important information for you. So that's the main ways I play the 15-minute orb. Again, let's summarize. We have 3 ways we play the orb. We have the breakout, and retest, which is like the perfect example is here. We have breakout, we have retest, and boom, you short here, right? Then we have another way. We have predicting way, which means you kind of short from here, wait for this, for confirmation to stay inside of your trade, and then you have just perfect entry, and you can just keep watching how the first version is playing out while you have much better entry, right? And then the third version is when the orb gets really wide, then we play it inside of it. We play that we long the lows, we short the highs. We use it as a support resistance for the first few hours of the New York session. Again, nothing is 100%, guys. Nothing is 100% in these markets. Now, I use more helping tools. You saw a little preview of this one, VWAP activation bands, EMAs, and so on, to get a stronger understanding what's my daily bias. But I wanted to make this video only about Orb. Please check out my other videos regarding this strategy as well. My previous video explains how I find this daily bias, and I'm gonna also have a future daily bias video as well. But I just wanted to have one video. What made me successful for 2 months, having these 0 red days, trading only one strategy? Again, I use different confluences, I use different story elements, but this will be like a quick tutorial how to trade Orb in 3 different ways. Not only what they teach you in the school, which is breakout, retest, and then enter. And what I would say in the end, make sure that you join the Discord. The Discord is growing, and in Discord you will see a lot of other traders who are just in the same place like you. I want to have a community where people can discuss with other traders ideas, share, I don't know, random stories, memes, just speak about anything about life, because trading itself can get really lonely in terms of the game of trading. It can be really lonely profession. So I wanted to make Discord for the community, for you to have somewhere to discuss trade ideas with others. And also you can directly speak with me there. I'm always active there. Ask me questions, give me ideas for the videos. And most importantly, you will also get all the notifications if I'm gonna stream and so on. And lastly, I will say that you also will get some stream recordings that I don't see the need to put in the YouTube, because there may be 20 seconds, 2 minutes of me explaining some things about the market that I look for. So I will upload these on Discord as well. Make sure that you like this video if you learned something new. If you're gonna test it out, let me know in the comments. Yeah, see you in the next video. Bye.